Have you ever found yourself slowly slipping out of your own life, as if everyone else is moving forward and you're just standing still? That's exactly how I felt when my wife, Erin, began pulling away, growing more distant each day. But when I started noticing her secretive behavior and how our daughters seemed to support it, it struck me that I might be on the outside of their plans. Things took a turn I didn't expect, leaving me questioning everything about my family and my place in it. Yet, life had more in store than I could have imagined, including an unlikely ally who'd help me build a future I never anticipated. Stick around, and I'll take you through it all. The early mornings have always kept me company, aligning with the disciplined rhythm of my job in sanitation. Whether it's dark or dawn, I'm out there, keeping the streets clean while everyone else is sound asleep. There's a quiet satisfaction in my work, something that gives me purpose, even if no one else seems to notice, least of all my own family. Erin, my wife, and our daughters don't see it the way they used to. There's no longer a proud look in their eyes when they see me. As the days go by, it feels like I'm fading further into the background while they all move on, settling into a new life that hardly includes me. Life has shifted for all of us, sure, but not in the way I'd imagined. Erin's recent promotion has taken her into a fast-paced world, one where she's around less and less. I try to hold on to the small moments, but the connection that once bound us feels thinner every day. There was a time when satisfaction filled our lives, when laughter echoed through the house, but now it all feels so distant. Even when I make an effort to reconnect, it's clear that her priorities are different. She's changing, and with each day, that gap between us seems to grow wider. Still, I keep my intentions focused on being present, on being a good husband and father. But Erin? She's a different person lately. New clothes, gifts for the girls, hair appointments. And my daughters, well, they're more captivated by their mom's new life than by anything I can give. Watching this unfold hurts, especially when I see them light up over something expensive she's bought them. Something that reminds me of the growing distance between us. It's as if I no longer belong in this picture, like I'm an outsider looking in. There's a sense of shame here, a tension as if my work is a dirty little secret they don't want to acknowledge. It's like I'm a part of their lives they'd rather overlook. Late at night, I wonder if my role here still matters, if I even fit into the future they're building. This thought stays with me, a subtle but growing intention to pay closer attention, to look for what's really changed between us, and maybe even start to think about what that means for me. I still remember the early days with Erin, the excitement, the shared dreams, the way we tackled every challenge together. Back then, there was this intense feeling of satisfaction just being by her side. We didn't have much, but what we lacked in money, we made up for in laughter, in the comfort of knowing we had each other's backs. Now, it feels like those moments belong to a different life, one buried under her success, under the polished exterior of a life I barely recognize. These days, I can't shake the feeling that there's something slipping away, something she's holding back. Since Erin's promotion, it's like she's not just busy, she's disconnected. Sure, work's demanding, but it's more than that. Her gaze drifts right past me. Her laughter sounds hollow, almost forced. She doesn't seem to notice my attempts to bridge the distance, brushing them off with work stuff or another meeting. And while she spends more evenings out, I'm left feeling a strange mixture of worry and suspicion creeping in, like a splinter in my mind. Is it just the job that's taken her away from me? Or is there something more? Lately, I've noticed her focus shift toward the girls, showering them with gifts and experiences, things I can't give them on my income alone. I watch from the sidelines as my daughters bask in this new lifestyle, one that seems to revolve around Erin's accomplishments. Her attention, once shared, feels exclusive now, directed at building this image, maybe even a future that doesn't involve me. This is where the doubt starts to settle, that lingering question of whether she's found something, or someone else that fills the gaps I can't. I keep telling myself it's just my imagination, that maybe I'm reading too much into the signs. But the feeling doesn't go away. It sticks with me, lingering in the silence of our empty conversations and her sidelong glances at her phone. Something's changed, something I can't quite pinpoint, but I feel like a cold draft sneaking in under the door. And every time I try to push these thoughts aside, they come back stronger, urging me to dig a little deeper to find out what's really going on. One morning, just as I was heading out, I heard Erin's voice through the half-closed door, chatting with our daughters. I froze, listening as she mentioned someone new in her life, someone she felt would upgrade things for her and the girls. It was like a punch to the gut hearing them talk about a future I hadn't been included in. My daughter's complicity, their voices filled with excitement, twisted the knife even deeper. All these little things I dismissed now made sense. The late nights, the sudden rush of new things for the girls. It felt like I'd been living in a different reality, oblivious to her true intentions. My mind raced, recalling all the times Erin's absence had nagged at me, only to be brushed aside as paranoia. I wanted to believe our marriage was something solid, something that could weather these changes. But now I was starting to see the cracks I'd refused to acknowledge. There was a painful clarity settling over me, each detail falling into place, filling me with a mixture of betrayal and disbelief. How had I missed this? Or worse, had I chosen to? Later that day, Erin's words hit me harder. She didn't outright admit to anything, but it was there in her tone, the way she avoided eye contact, the small smirk when I mentioned our future. She was already looking past me, making plans that didn't include us. The shock was undeniable. I could barely focus, thinking of how easily she'd slipped into this new life without so much as a second thought. I started to feel like a stranger in my own home, an outsider looking in, grasping for some kind of understanding in all this. I felt shattered, knowing that Erin and the girls were willing to keep me in the dark, that they'd shared this secret without me. My mind drifted to my next steps, to what this would mean for all of us. Should I confront her? Or simply observe? Gather the full truth? There was an unmistakable heaviness in the air, but I wasn't about to walk away just yet. If this was the end of one chapter, I'd at least see it through, even if I had no idea what came next. In the midst of this unraveling, Melody appeared like a breath of fresh air. She worked at the diner where I often grabbed my lunch, and over time, a natural camaraderie grew between us. Melody was easy to talk to, someone who listened without judgment or pity. A single mom herself, she understood family struggles, the exhaustion of trying to hold things together. Every lunch with her was a break from the tension at home, a moment of quiet satisfaction that left me feeling seen, if only briefly. And in those moments, something inside me began to thaw, like the first warmth after a long winter. As we spoke more, Melody opened up about her own journey, the sacrifices she made to give her daughter, Lucy, a stable life. Her strength was subtle but unmistakable, a constant intention to push forward despite her own setbacks. I found myself admiring her resilience, the way she laughed easily even when things seemed tough. It wasn't romantic, at least not initially, but it was comforting, a space where I could just be myself without pretending. Somehow, her empathy created a safe haven, a quiet understanding that I didn't know I needed until then. Over time, Melody and Lucy became like family. When Erin and the girls were too wrapped up in their new lives, Melody and Lucy were there, filling that empty space in ways I never expected. It was simple gestures, a hot coffee on a cold day, a homemade meal, shared laughter, that started to rebuild parts of me that had felt broken for too long. Being with them gave me a sense of purpose again, a satisfaction that I thought I'd lost. It was like my world, once so bleak, was beginning to show glimpses of color and warmth. I didn't know where this would lead, but I knew it felt good. For once, I allowed myself to imagine a different kind of future, one where maybe I wasn't just an afterthought. The thought lingered, a quiet intention to explore this new chapter with Melody, however slowly. I wasn't ready to make promises or jump to conclusions, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of hope. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to see where it might take me. The divorce process came with all the heaviness I'd expected, but strangely, not the bitterness. Erin seemed ready to move on, almost detached, as we divided our lives into assets, custody, and finances. It felt surreal, like we were dismantling something that had been our entire world. Still, I held on to one priority, ensuring the girls had stability. We settled things amicably enough, though each signature felt like a final goodbye. My daughters chose to stay with me, a decision that surprised and moved me, sparking a small satisfaction amid the wreckage of our family's past life. As we settled into our new normal, the girls slowly began to open up about their own regrets, especially the part they played in keeping Erin's secrets. There was a lot of hurt there, a lot of trust to rebuild. I could see they were grappling with their choices, and part of me wanted to protect them from their own guilt. They blamed Erin's influence, which both relieved and saddened me. But our conversations, as difficult as they were, seemed to stitch back the rips in our family bond, one slow, heartfelt moment at a time. Healing, I realized, would take patience from us all. I'd been saving up over the years, setting money aside for their future, and when I showed them, their shock was unmistakable. They hadn't expected it, especially given how low they'd been feeling. But I wanted them to know that, despite everything, I was still committed to their future, to their dreams. That revelation seemed to bridge a bit of the distance between us, bringing a subtle but tangible shift in our relationship. It wasn't just about finances. It was a testament to my intention to always support them, no matter what. Little by little, we started to feel like a team again. The memories of Erin lingered, but they didn't cast the same shadow. We were redefining ourselves, no longer tied to the choices that had divided us. And while I knew there'd be more challenges, something about this new dynamic felt solid, grounded. For the first time, it seemed like we were building something lasting together. And as I looked at my daughters, I felt a quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, we were going to be okay. With the divorce behind me, I found myself thinking more about Melody. She'd been there through the toughest parts, her presence a constant reminder that life could still hold warmth and connection. When I finally asked her out, it felt like the natural next step, but it wasn't without its complications. My daughters were less than thrilled, and I could sense the tension the moment I mentioned Melody's name. There was a subtle resistance, as if they felt I was moving on too soon. I understood, of course. It was all new to them, but I hoped they'd see that Melody wasn't just anyone. Our first official date was simple, almost refreshingly so, a quiet lunch with Melody and her daughter, Lucy, joining us. Melody's laughter filled the room, her joy contagious, putting me at ease in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. The girls, though polite, couldn't hide their unease, throwing glances my way as if to remind me they hadn't signed off on this change. It was an odd mix of excitement and hesitation, but I kept reminding myself that this was about building something new, something that could bring all of us a bit of the satisfaction we'd been missing. After lunch, the tension bubbled up, and I knew we couldn't avoid it forever. My daughters voiced their concerns, worried about what this new chapter with Melody might mean for us. Sitting them down, I reassured them that my intention wasn't to replace anything or anyone, but rather to share this new part of my life. It was a heartfelt conversation, one where I tried to explain that happiness doesn't erase the past. It just adds something different. Slowly, I could see the understanding in their eyes, though acceptance might take time. That day marked a shift for all of us. My daughters started to warm to the idea, if cautiously, and Melody was patient, not pushing but simply being there. As we all settled into this new rhythm, I felt a quiet optimism growing, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, we were finding our way forward. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real, and that was enough to keep me going. Not long after, my daughters made the unexpected decision to live with Erin and her new partner, Jason. I wanted to support their choice, though it stung a bit, knowing they'd chosen her despite everything. I reminded myself that they needed to see things for themselves, to figure out who Erin really was on their own terms. But something about Jason made me uneasy. My daughters seemed happy enough at first, but there was an edge in their voices whenever they mentioned him, a hesitation that raised quiet alarms in my mind. I tried to shake off the feeling, but it lingered like a shadow. One night, my phone buzzed, and it was my daughters, their voices shaken. They discovered cameras, hidden cameras, around their rooms, installed by none other than Jason. My heart dropped. How could Erin allow something like this? They'd sent me a video clip, evidence of Jason's disturbing actions. I could hear their fear, their trust shaken, and I knew this wasn't something I could overlook. It was more than a betrayal. It was a violation of their safety. The disbelief gave way to a fierce resolve. My daughters needed me, and I wasn't going to let them face this alone. I immediately brought them back to my home, the relief in their eyes a painful reminder of how much they'd endured. Erin tried to brush it off, claiming it was a misunderstanding, but I saw the truth in her dismissive tone. Jason's actions were serious, something she could no longer ignore or excuse. This time, I wasn't going to let her smooth things over with false promises. My daughter's well-being was on the line, and if Erin couldn't see the problem, I'd have to act on their behalf. The trust between us was beyond repair, but at least now, the girls understood where my priorities lay. The legal process was swift. Jason faced charges, and soon enough, he was held accountable for his actions. It was a victory, yes, but one that left a scar on all of us. My daughters had been through too much, and Erin's indifference was a wound that might never fully heal. But as I stood by them, supporting them through this ordeal, our bond grew stronger. It wasn't the family we'd once had, but in many ways, it was better, a family built on trust and the promise that I'd always be there, no matter what. In the weeks following the ordeal, my daughters and I found a deeper connection than we'd ever had before. They began to see me in a different light, understanding the lengths I'd go to protect them. Erin's presence in their lives gradually faded, her focus shifting back to herself, while our bond grew stronger. I could feel the warmth of family rebuilding around us, one moment at a time. The girls even started calling Melody Mom, a gesture that was unexpected but deeply moving, hinting at just how far we'd come together. Satisfaction filled our home again, in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. Melody's presence brought a sense of stability that I didn't realize we'd been missing. Her care and patience with the girls, along with her gentle humor, helped heal old wounds. Slowly, we formed our own new version of family, one defined by shared respect and the intention to protect each other. I could see the girls thrive under this steady presence, even laughing more openly, each day moving us further from the pain of the past. Melody and I didn't rush anything, but there was a natural rhythm, a trust that was building its own future. Even Erin's influence, once so strong, seemed to dissolve as the girls recognized the love and support that Melody and I provided. They no longer clung to old hurts or unanswered questions, choosing instead to embrace the life we were creating together. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when they needed to grieve the family we'd lost. But through every challenge, I could feel our bond strengthening, a shared intention to keep growing together, knowing we were finally on the right path. We weren't perfect, but we were real, and that was enough. Looking back, I never imagined this outcome. Yet here we were, our little family rebuilt stronger than ever. Melody had become the heart of our home, a source of joy and laughter that my daughters now cherished as much as I did. Life had taken us through a storm, but as we moved forward, there was a steady peace settling around us, a new beginning, one we were ready to embrace. And for the first time in a long time, the future looked bright, filled with possibility and trust, a satisfaction that ran deeper than I'd ever known.
Keep watching our stories by clicking on one of the videos that appear on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be alerted about new videos. See you next time.